Ever feel like your career path could use like a major GPS recalibration?
Hmm, we feel that.
We're diving into Aubrey Arms's Neurodivergent Career Navigator program
Oh, interesting.
to kind of redraw those lines for success, especially for us neurodivergent folks.
I like it. A career GPS specifically for neurodivergent brain,
Exactly. It's like a crash course in rewiring your mindset for work.
which we could all use, right?
Right. Sometimes I feel like the whole mindset thing is a little, you know.
Fuzzy.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of motivational posters.
Exactly. So, what's the real deal from Aubrey's perspective?
Well, she's coming at this as an HR pro, a coach, and a recovering workaholic herself.
Been there.
Right. So she gets it. And she describes mindset as the lens we use to look at, well, everything.
Okay, so not just work stuff.
Not at all. It impacts everything, how we see ourselves, obviously, but
Yeah.
also like how we handle those tricky office dynamics, how we deal with challenges.
And ultimately, what we achieve.
Exactly. It's all connected.
So, two people could be in the same exact role, maybe even the same office.
Same annoying copier jamming constantly.
Yes, but their experience would be totally different.
100%.
Mm.
And that's all down to mindset.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine two colleagues, both neurodivergent. They get some tough feedback on a project.
Ouch, we've all been there.
Right. So one, let's say they have more of a fixed mindset. They might totally internalize that feedback.
As proof that they're not good enough, or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the stress might even trigger like some sensory overload right there in the moment.
Makes sense. Now, the other colleague, the one with a growth mindset, what do?
They see that feedback as a learning opportunity, a chance to pinpoint areas for improvement, maybe develop some new skills.
Okay, I see the difference. But what's happening in our brains when we react in such different ways? Can we really just shift from one to the other?
That's where neuroplasticity comes in.
Neuroplasticity.
Basically, it means your brain isn't fixed. It can change and adapt throughout your life. Think of it like a forest with paths.
Okay, I kind of get it.
Every time you think or do something, you're walking down a certain path, making it more defined.
So if you're stuck in negative thought patterns,
You're reinforcing those paths, making
Yeah.
them harder to break free from. But here's the cool part.
there's a way out of the woods.
Yes, with conscious effort, you can create new pathways, redirect those well-worn negative thought patterns to something more positive and productive.
So it's like those 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert, but for our minds.
Exactly. And just like physical exercise strengthens your body, practicing a growth mindset builds mental resilience. And that's a big part of what Aubrey's program is all about.
Like a 10-week boot camp for your brain.
Exactly.
And week one, she jumps right into it, huh?
Head first, fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Let's break it down. What are we looking at with that fixed mindset, especially for us neurodivergent folks?
Well, with a fixed mindset, there's this belief that your intelligence, your talents, they're just fixed, set in stone. You're either good at something or you're not.
Which can be really tough,
That-
especially with things that don't come naturally.
Exactly. And because of that, challenges can feel really threatening because they might expose those perceived limitations.
So you might avoid putting yourself out there
Right. Like maybe you dread presentations or speaking up in meetings,
because you're afraid of judgment or making mistakes.
and that fear of failure can be paralyzing.
So with a fixed mindset, you're kind of stuck, right? Playing it safe all the time. What does it look like to actually embrace a growth mindset, especially in Aubrey's program?
Well, she really emphasizes how a growth mindset allows you to see challenges as opportunities.
Okay, so instead of freaking out about a tough project,
You'd think, okay, this is going to push me, help me grow, maybe even learn some cool new skills.
it's like leveling up in a video game. I like that.
Right. And Aubrey's got your back with tools to actually reframe those thought patterns.
Give me an example.
One of them is called recognize, reframe, repeat.
Catchy. How's it work?
It starts with just noticing those automatic negative thoughts. Like, oh, I'm the only one struggling with this, or I should be way further along by now.
Oh, I know those thoughts. So easy to spiral down that hole.
The worst, right. But instead of letting them take over, you reframe them. So instead of, I'm terrible at this, it's what part of this is tripping me up and what can I do about it?
Shifting from like self-criticism to problem solving.
Exactly. And this is where the RAS comes in.
RAS, as in.
The reticular activating system. It's like a filter in your brain that like highlights info that matches your dominant thoughts.
Oh, like when you're thinking about getting a new car and suddenly you see that car everywhere you look.
Exactly. If you're stuck on limitations in what you're not good at, your RAS is going to keep pointing those out to you.
But if you're focused on solutions and growth,
You'll start seeing those opportunities you might have missed before.
I like it. So we're challenging those negative thoughts, shifting our focus. What other tools does Aubrey have up her sleeve?
She's got these switching questions. They help break those automatic negative thought patterns.
Switching questions. So instead of, why am I so behind on this project?
Try, what's one thing I can do right now to move forward?
Love it. It's so easy to get overwhelmed and forget that small steps matter.
They really do. And speaking of moving forward, Aubrey also talks about shifting from a victim mindset.
To one of responsibility. I have to admit, that term victim mindset always kind of threw me. It felt harsh.
I get it. But as you dig deeper, it's not about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming your control.
Taking ownership. Okay, so instead of, my boss doesn't get me, my coworkers are all neurotypical, I'll never fit in.
It becomes, how can I communicate my needs better? Are there support systems I can tap into?
Subtle, but that shift is huge. It's empowering.
Totally. It's about moving from why me to what now. That's what Aubrey wants for everyone in the program,
Yeah.
taking ownership of their careers, their experience.
It's so easy to fall into that why me trap, especially when it feels like the workplace wasn't really designed with neurodiversity in mind.
For sure.
But it sounds like this program is less about changing the world and more about changing how we show up in it.
You got it. Aubrey really emphasizes that while, yeah, we can advocate for more inclusive workplaces,
Yeah.
true empowerment comes from focusing on what we can control, our mindset, our actions, how we respond to those curveballs.
It's like that saying, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails.
Love it.
But Aubrey doesn't just leave you with a motivational quote, right? She gives you actual tools.
Oh, yeah, she's all about giving you the tools to actually make those adjustments. And one of the most powerful ones is community.
Okay, how so?
She encourages everyone in the program to connect, share their experiences, offer support, celebrate those wins.
Because this work, it can be tough.
It can be. And having that tribe, people who get it, makes a huge difference.
It makes you feel seen. Right.
Totally. And speaking of feeling seen, as we wrap up this deep dive on Aubrey's program, there's one last thought that really stuck with me. She says, your greatest growth will come when you're willing to get uncomfortable.
Ooh, I like that. Pushing past those self-imposed limits. But that's definitely easier said than done sometimes.
It is. But that discomfort often means you're stretching, you're learning, you're evolving. It's a good sign.
It's a sign you're onto something. So, as we all head back out into the world, maybe a little braver, a bit more growth-minded, what's one key takeaway you hope listeners will carry with them?
That mindset, it's not a destination. It's a journey. It's about embracing those ups and downs, those wins and setbacks, seeing them all as opportunities.
I love that.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Find your people, connect with mentors, celebrate every single step.
Such great advice. This has been an amazing deep dive, by the way.
My pleasure.
So if you're feeling inspired, take Aubrey's challenge to heart. Ask yourself, where am I playing it safe in my own career? What would it look like to step outside that comfort zone this week? Embrace that growth mindset and see what happens.
Now, that's a question worth pondering.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into, well, rewiring our mindsets for career success. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for your full potential.
Couldn't have said it better myself.